Welcome to episode 23 of Directed by Steven Spielberg. With 34 films to cover in this series, we are now 2/3 the way through and we are entering the latter stages of Spielberg's illustrious career. Today's film is a return to the sci-fi genre with the 2005 remake of War of the Worlds, starring Tom Cruise in his second Spielberg film. My distinct memories of this film is that it is quite strong throughout, but doesn't quite stick the landing. Have my impressions changed upon this most recent viewing? Let's find out. War of the Worlds is a science fiction thriller based on H.G. Wells' classic novel. The film follows Ray Ferrier, played by Tom Cruise, a divorced, working-class dock worker who is estranged from his children Robbie and Rachel. When Ray's ex-wife drops off the kids for a weekend visit, their lives are suddenly disrupted by an alien invasion. Without warning, massive alien machines called tripods emerge from beneath the earth, unleashing devastating attacks with heat rays and force fields that obliterate everything in their path. Realizing the dire situation, Ray grabs his children and flees, determined to protect them at all costs. The family embarks on a harrowing journey across the devastated landscape, trying to survive as society collapses around them. As they travel, Ray witnesses the overwhelming power of the aliens, who systematically destroy cities and harvest humans. The tripods appear unstoppable, with the military's best efforts failing to make any impact. The invasion pushes Ray to his limits as he struggles with his own fears and the responsibility of keeping his children safe. Amidst the chaos, Ray and his children encounter various survivors, each dealing with the horror in different ways. The film culminates in Boston, where Ray and Rachel are separated from Robbie but eventually reunite. In the end, the aliens mysteriously begin to falter and die due to Earth's microorganisms, which they had no immunity against. The film closes with Ray successfully reuniting his family, and the world begins to recover from the catastrophic invasion. The end. Whilst War of the Worlds is hardly Spielberg's first film in the sci-fi genre, it is crazy to think that it's really his first end-of-the-world stakes film. Considering how good he is at building suspense and capturing scale and scope, you would think that he would have tried his hand at this genre more throughout his career, but War of the Worlds is a very solid first effort. He's able to construct an epic alien invasion depicted through the lens of a small, broken family, a trope that is right in his wheelhouse. You would be forgiven for thinking that War of the Worlds is a film about surviving an alien invasion, but it's really about an absent father learning to earn the love of his children once again. Before we dig into these themes, let's talk about the visual techniques on display. The most commonly used Spielberg film technique in War of the Worlds is tracking shots. Spielberg uses them consistently throughout the film to draw attention to the environment in which the shot is tracking through. The first shot of the film is a tracking shot through a construction site, following our lead, Ray, as we get to know his character. It's used later on in the car escape sequence, in the basement scene at his ex-wife's house, and whilst walking through a plane crash site. It occurred to me after several of these tracking shots that Spielberg tends to lean on them more specifically for his war films. The reason for this is that he wants to capture the scale and scope of the environments he's dealing with, often which are destroyed and full of rubble. This helps the audience to buy into the events they are watching and to even put them right in the action. There is also a form of concealment that I appreciated in this film, particularly in the scene when Ray's son Robbie wants to run over the hill to join the army in fighting back against the aliens. I love how you can't really see what is happening over the hill other than the explosions and heavy gunfire taking place from their side of the hill. A nice little touch at hinting towards the horrors occurring in the distance without actually showing them. I would be remiss not to mention the first contact with the aliens, where they unleash their destruction upon New Jersey as Ray sprints away from their attacks. The visuals are great, and I have to say that the laser blasts almost look like projectiles of Spielberg lights, which, now that I've mentioned, were predominantly used in closed underground spaces throughout the film as a way of illuminating those dark surroundings. There's plenty of classic Spielberg suspense in the film as well, the best example being the alien worm that searches its way through the barn that Ray, Rachel, and Ogilvy are shacked up in. The quiet is deafening, which allows the tension to build, and the camera angles are used brilliantly to show the movements of the humans and the aliens in one frame. The shot of the worm peering over the mirror as the humans hide behind it felt very reminiscent of the shot in Jurassic Park, where the raptors are searching the kitchen with Timmy hidden behind the bench. A nice little visual tribute to his past works, and shows how the same formula for creating tension can be used in different settings. As for the themes in this film, the main theme is a very familiar one, which is fatherhood. It's a recurring theme in Spielberg films to have children dealing with absent fathers, and War of the Worlds is very much about the journey of one father to earn the love and respect of his children, whom he has neglected. He begins the film clearly not wanting to be responsible for them, and them not wanting anything to do with him, but through dire circumstances and a fight for survival is forced into fulfilling his parental duties, and as a result is brought closer to his children. I'm truly fascinated by the absent father trope that Spielberg is clearly obsessed with, because if my calculations are correct, this is roughly his 7th film to deal specifically with the topic. There's Close Encounters of the Third Kind, E.T. the Extraterrestrial, Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade, Hook, Jurassic Park, Catch Me If You Can, and now War of the Worlds. And that's not even mentioning the films that depict absent parents in general. I guess his child trauma runs deep, and he's used it to fuel his creative juices into stories about fathers redeeming themselves, which is nice to see. Overall, my thoughts on War of the Worlds are quite clear. The film starts strong and continues to be high quality throughout until it reaches the end, which feels very anticlimactic. The end is basically the aliens are defeated by microbes that humans have adapted to over millennia, which the aliens have not. Given the size and scope of this film, that resolution feels very underwhelming and somewhat rushed. Whilst I understand that the film is more about a family's struggle for survival than about defeating an alien invasion, but there had to be a better way to conclude the story that would feel more satisfying. Imagine if Ray had sacrificed himself to destroy the aliens, how much more impactful that would have been to have his kids finally love and respect him as he sacrifices himself for them. Just one idea, but that's already better than what we got. Performance-wise, Tom Cruise does a great job playing a deadbeat dad, while still getting to perform his action star heroics. There's genuine chemistry between him, Robbie, and Rachel, who also give great performances, particularly young Dakota Fanning as Rachel. A child playing a character with anxiety is not easy, but she embodies her role with absolute authenticity, which is remarkable for her age at the time. All in all, War of the Worlds is a very good sci-fi action film that effectively captures end-of-the-world stakes, but unfortunately ends with a whimper from a writing standpoint. From a directorial standpoint, however, it's visually as impressive as any other Spielberg film and is deserving of much praise for that alone. So that concludes today's episode of Directed by Steven Spielberg. I mentioned at the beginning of this video how my impression of War of the Worlds is that it is a strong film up until the ending, and I have to say, upon this most recent viewing, my opinion remains unchanged. Which is a shame, because based on the vast majority of this film, it could have easily been given a score of a 9 out of 10, but because of the ending and its lackluster ending, I'm going to give it a 7.5 out of 10. There's a few 7.5s on this list so far, and I think it is best placed between AI and The Lost World in 16th place. Moving on to the next film in this series is a return to the historical drama genre for Spielberg with the 2005 film Munich. I have never seen this film before and I have no knowledge of it, so I'm excited to experience a Spielberg film for the first time. Until then, I thank you all very much for watching and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.